Alrighty, my name's Kurt Brappy and we've got Darin Butcher here for Darin's Desk for the end of 2023, the yearly wrap-up. Darin, welcome.
Sure, it's not 24, mate.
Not yet. It's coming around very quick though.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks.
Darin, can you give us some thoughts on the wrap-up for the year of 2023?
Well, it's been a superb year. It's certainly getting difficult for some of our clients that are out there. The purchasing in the upmarket and feeling the pressure of the market coming back. And, we have a debate off air about how much it's come back or gone forward or whatever the case may be. We've certainly seen a big decrease early in the piece where the market had just shifted and a lot of people had to adjust quite quickly. And we've probably seen, we're debating between 20 and 30% coming off the top.
Yep.
We've seen an increase 3 months ago where we started to see the prices increase a bit. And we've seen some areas that have bolted and increased a little bit more recently and some decreasing recently as well. So, areas like I use, for example, Hamilton Terrace, a really, really popular area, really, really great area.
Yep.
But we've seen, because there's a lot of new builds similar to each other coming on the market, the competition there is quite thick.
Yep.
And prices are coming back a little bit. There's 71 currently on the market there. And then you go for a jump over to an area like Blue Haven, and it normally carries around 40 to 50 properties as a minimum on the market, and there's 11 for sale.
Yep.
And so they're seeing a price increase, and prices starting to escalate a little bit because of that reason. And it's interesting what interest rates do, mate. Them going up.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing is obviously stock levels has got to do with everything. Nora Head, you mentioned before, it's got 11 properties.
Yep.
We haven't seen that in probably, I haven't seen them 13 years.
Yeah,
So.
and just to make so everyone know that there's normally one or two topping it out
Yep.
for the last probably 4 or 5 years.
So do you think they're feeling the financial pressures out there at Nora Head because it's such an exclusive area? Usually we don't see any properties on the market out there. I mean, it's one of the highest probably medium sale prices in our area.
Yep.
Do you think they're feeling the pressure?
Well, I don't think they're feeling the financial pressure. What I think's actually happening is they're able to use their money wisely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're getting so much more by putting it in cash in bank now than what they did before. So when the interest rates are 2%, they were getting a 0.25% interest rate. Now they're sitting up in 4 3/4 the cash rate, which got held today, by the way. But if they're sitting at 6.5%-7% interest rates that they could be paying as interest rates out there, or they move it into cash in bank, they might be getting 2.5%-3%.
Yep.
They weren't seeing that before. And I think that's there's some exciting times there.
Yeah, okay. I'm seeing that a few people, like pretty much a lot of people are coming on the market, the ones that have purchased in the last 12, 18 months.
Yep.
So a lot of the buyers or a lot of the sellers that I've been dealing with are the ones that have purchased 12, 18 months. They're either selling because of financial issues because of the interest rates, they didn't take into account that they're going to go up, or I'm also seeing a lot of them that are actually selling to actually get into like the Sydney market. So they bought an investment on the coast because it's been cheaper, and now they're actually selling it, not prepared to take a loss between 20 to 50,000, in some cases a bit more, but they're finding better value in Sydney where they can actually get their own home now and use it as a vehicle, even though and potentially might take a loss.
Yeah, I've had a bit of that happening, so I agree with you totally there. I've also had seen a lot of divorce. I think I did 6 appraisals out of them, 3 of them were divorce. I've never seen it so high in our area. And, I don't know whether it's the hiccup from the COVID and people are reassessing their lives and where they're going and what they're doing, or whether it's just that one wants to move back and one wants to stay, or how it is actually, because we did get a lot of people from Sydney. So I found that quite interesting. The other one, business people, Kurt, just sorry about that, but I found business people were an interesting topic, because there's a lot of business people that now aren't having the turnover that they had through the COVID periods, didn't have the financial aids and all the rest of it, and now starting to feel the pinch of that. And that's causing a little bit of the turmoil in the families as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, cost of living is probably at a record high, I would say. You mentioned before interest rates didn't go up today.
No.
What was your take on that? Do you think they were going to go up or they won't?
Yeah, I think February you're probably going to see it again. Look, there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald on the weekend, or the Sydney Sunday Telegraph or whatever it was, and it actually was an interesting one because it said that they've lost reality. The person behind the Reserve Bank has lost reality to it all. And she was heading over to Hong Kong to talk about how progressive interest rates keep going up and up and up, and then yet the people in Blacktown and they use that as the term, but people of the outer Sydney West, and I would include the Central Coast with that, are really feeling the pinch. The average person I speak to are really hurting from their interest rates. Yet she sees it as white noise, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting of how you do it.
Yeah, but back then I think the other thing is too, like, you were there in the days of when interest rates were 17-18%. I wasn't around to see that, but a lot of people talk about that. How do you think that compares to this day and age when, say, the average mortgage was 100, 150,000 and interest rates were 17-18%? Now we're talking probably the average mortgage is what, 500,000-600,000.
Yeah.
How do you compare those two times? Like,
It's an interesting topic actually. When I first got into real estate, it was just after those times, and there was a thing called Law Fund, which was a government-run fund, and it was 24.5% that they'd stung the people for, and they got people who were desperate for housing, couldn't get rental property, so they helped them out that way. So it was a disastrous scheme. So I've seen them as high as 24.5 for some people, which is just ridiculous.
Crazy.
It is, but what you've got to realise is that people are getting paid more now than they've ever been paid before. And look, I know throughout, and I see all the advertisements that actually come through the emails and stuff like that. I've got a person looking for this amount for this job and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I can start to see that wages have got to a point where they just keep going up and up. So it's not necessarily the latte that's actually costing people the haircut. I think you're going to find it's actually the fact that the bosses have got to a point where they're not making profit. They're saying to the staff, well, there's no more meat on the bone. The people can shift, and they do. And there's a lot of transient in any business, real estate included. But I think that's going to be the biggest problem, because there's going to come a point where there just can't be any more. And every time a wage gets upped, so does the inflation, mate. It strikes me as just a necessary evil. But unfortunately, every time it goes up and goes up and goes up, unfortunately, the inflation goes up and interest rates go up. So they're going to come back to the boss and say, oh, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I feel sorry for it.
Well, I think the biggest thing too is like you've got the interest rates, which is one thing, but every time you seem to go to the shops at the moment for two people, it's probably $250 plus.
That's crazy.
You look at fill up your car to drive to work, you're talking $2 plus a litre.
Yep.
So, I mean, everywhere you look in life at the moment, you go for a beer at $7 now. Everything is quite expensive. So
that'd have to hurt you.
It definitely does. But what I'm trying to say is that they're comparing to times, it might be the 80s or 90s, I'm not sure what time it was, 70-80%. I just want to know, what's your thoughts and if it was comparable. And
I don't think we're even close to the earth that was actually there then. I think that the fact is that I've even been through times that I've seen the pain that actually people go through when they just can't afford mortgages, and we're probably seeing a few mortgage impositions, but not many really.
Yeah, not really.
Scheme of things.
Yeah, I've probably seen a couple of people that are financially stressed have to sell because of that, but no mortgage impositions have come through.
And I think you're going to see heaps of them coming through when you go trying to find it. The average interest rate normally is around about 8%. We've just had this luxury that it hasn't been, and a lot of people haven't seen it anywhere near that. I think that, and I've said this all along, if you're not budgeting for 8%, then you're probably going to find some financial hardship somewhere along the line. And let's face it, we've all got into the habit of monopoly and buying property and using that property to get equity, and it's always going up and up and up. And so people have just got to understand that there is a period where it's got to slow down or steady or actually even go backwards for the market to be up. I always say that there can't be rainbows without rain.
Yeah. Do you think you'll see that interest rate again in your lifetime?
The 2%?
Yeah.
Or below?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't think so.
No. I wish I would live that long, but I don't think so.
Would you done things differently if it was that rate again?
Yeah, I would have bought everything. Everything. But I suppose I'd probably be the one in financial hardship now. So
yeah. Well, I've got an email to my broker asking about interest rates and locking in, and my words were she offered 3.84%. My words were I'd rather gamble than pay 3.4%. Now I'm paying 6.5%. So there you go. Don't take advice from a real estate agent.
Yeah,
exactly. So forecast for 2024 then. What's it look like?
Remembering we're not financial planners, so we actually can't do this. So this is just our advice between ourselves. But the way I sort of see it is, it's going to be the first quarter is going to be tough. Yep. I think there's just a lack of stock that's out there, and buyers are going to be cautious. They're going to wait, I think, until February to see where the interest rates are going further. I just love them to say it's going to hang on, or it's going to drop. But there again, I don't know whether people are going to trust that as well. Yeah. Because, we've gone through that period where they said it wasn't going up and it did.
Correct.
So that's going to be interesting. But I think if we can get some consistency just to say the market's going to steady or the market's going to drop or whatever the case may be, I think people are just waiting for what the peak is.
Yep.
And then they can make their mind up. Like, people can budget if they know what it is, but we don't have a clue what it's going to be.
That's right.
And, in fairness to the Reserve Bank as well, they don't either.
No.
But every time they shift a rate, the market now is adjusting through wages, and I think that's one part, only a small part, but it's one part that's actually growing us.
Do you think this is all because of COVID?
I think the fact that we had a couple of booms. I think we had a boom, Then we had another little boom.
Yep.
And then we had that steady period COVID hit. Everyone thought it was going to drop and then it went again. So there's a triple boom. I think it was just meant to be. I think it was the timing of it. And then COVID probably interfered with the down market that could have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Yep.
And it probably would be a lot less hurt if that was the case. Look, you can't blame one thing. I think it's, you could argue that it's poor management or how to handle it.
Yep.
We've never seen a rise like this. Maybe they should have done bigger chunks quicker and then stopped dead for a while and seen the reaction to it. I don't think they're waiting for a reaction at all. I think they're just going, bang, it's happened. Next month, oh no, it hasn't changed. And then they're making decisions. But that hurt doesn't always come in straight away.
Yeah.
And we see by talking to people, they go, well, if there's another 0.5%, we're gone, but they've been saying that for probably 1.5% now, and they're still hanging on with their fingernails. So,
So you talk about the first quarter of 2024 being tough.
Yeah.
What's the rest of the year like, you believe?
Mate, it's an interesting one because I've got a client that buys a lot of property and also hangs on to a lot of property, and he said he believes it's going to boom by June 30. So he thinks the market's going to take off. I'm probably not as optimistic, and I'm a very optimistic person.
Yep.
I think that there should be a little bit of a gain, I think. But I don't think there's going to be a huge gain. I think that if the markets hold firm over this year, I'd be happy to say that that's a great thing for everybody. Just gives us a bit of stability, and I think that the world needs a bit of stability at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And would you say that a lot of people are holding on, like sellers out there are holding on until the Christmas period's over? And do you think that more are going to come on in the new year?
I'd love to think so, being a business owner with lots of staff. But I think it's probably going to be similar to what we're seeing now. I think there's going to be the trickle of properties coming on, and they'll take advantage of some of these good prices that the occasional buyer is willing to offer. But if they're in an area where there's volume, then they're probably going to find they have to be competitive to get it on and off the market. So, when's the best time to buy or sell? We get asked it all the time.
Yep, it's one of the real estate myths, isn't it?
Oh, it is. So what would you say there, Kurt?
I'd always say, in my personal experience, when you can afford to buy, you should buy. There's so many parameters on the outside that change your lending capacity. Interest rate's one of them. Over time might be another. Cost of living might be another. So usually once you've got that loan, you'll make that loan work. Whether you've got to rent it out, move back home, do whatever you need to do to try and make that work. When that, I suppose that loan's in that budget, you kind of work towards that. That's what I find anyway. So
no, I don't disagree. It's an interesting one because what I've seen is younger staff when they were coming through and they only wanted to work part-time. They only wanted to work 2-3 days a week maximum. That's what they were looking for. Now I've started to see them going for 4 or 5 days, and most of them are saying, well, if I've got to take 5, I've got to, where in the past they dictated what they were going to do and how they're going to do it. So I think what's actually going to happen is there's going to be more people take up more permanent jobs, which is actually going to mean that there's going to be more supply of staff, which actually means that the cost of staff is going to probably come back a little bit. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I do think that has a lot to do with the economy because then they're going to be able to borrow better. And they're going to be able to borrow more and be more consistent. The banks are going to be looking to them fondly. And I think you're going to see a lot of younger people going and getting the market. And, from a builder's perspective, they've probably reached the end of their tether of their excellent prices that they were getting over the COVID period. Supply of materials is starting to come back in more readily and all the rest of it. So I think you're going to find that building prices, while they might not decrease a lot, I think the trades costs are going to come back a little bit, and it's going to make it a little bit more affordable. I think people will start to look at, hey, I want to build my dream home, or this is my right location, or can I get into the market here, and start to use a tradie to do it up so it's a little bit better and things like that. So I think you're going to see a little bit of movement from especially the bottom end of the market.
And from an investment strategy point of view, for the, I suppose, listeners out there that might be looking to jump into their first investment, there's still a lot of people that purchased probably before COVID, or even a bit before then, that have got huge equity in the home that's doing nothing at the moment. What would you say from an investment point of view, like what strategies would you recommend?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. Look, I think we're going to see negative gearing being something that comes back in quite a bit. It used to be that everyone would walk in the door and say, I want positive gear. I remember there was a time when someone would walk in and ask for positive gear and I'd laugh at them. And then we went through 3, 4, 5 years where it was just sitting there in the ready and everyone could get them. Whack a granny flat on, you could be definitely that way and stuff like that. And now we're starting to see that that's probably gone the opposite way. So I think what's going to happen is that people will come in, they'll negative gear, they'll work that against their tax and and hopefully that will present them some opportunities there. So I still think there'll be buyers. From a strategies point of view, I would be, there's a couple of things, but I think it's probably because my eye's on the ball there. Our local area up the northern end of the coast is certainly a very popular area to invest in, and we manage a lot of properties, and that gives us the insight into where they should buy. So if they want to talk to our agents can give them the guff of where is and what we're actually looking for tenants. And we've got good AAA tenants that are waiting. I think we leased 69 properties last month, which is incredible, the biggest down the coast by a long, long way.
Yeah, that's good for the investment market, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I think that'll be one of the things. I'd be looking for bigger blocks. I'd be looking for better positions. That'd be what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And I wouldn't rule out, we've got an office in Darin. I wouldn't be ruling out that for sure. It's a great area at the moment for investment. I think you can buy something around the $500,000 mark that returns around the same, like when I say that, it returns around $500 a week roughly.
Yep.
And you've got big blocks, you can put granny flats on them, potential dual locks, things like that. Amazing value. So I wouldn't be scared to be looking at that. I can see that land prices are dropping and dropped quite quickly.
Is that a supply thing? Do you think there's, a lot of the developers that come through from council, they might have caught up?
Yep.
I know they changed their policy about 12, 18 months ago with the DAs.
Yeah.
And that seems to have sped things up a little bit.
I think it's good, Kurt. I think that one of the things that I've seen is, though, they used to have the marketing companies come in and buy 100 or 200 at one time, so the estate was gone in one bang because they already had buyers ready to go and stuff, and they don't have that as readily, the buyers sitting there waiting to go. So I think what it's done is it presented an opportunity to mum and dads or even young people to go and buy that block now. I think that's really gold. So so they have come back off, and they've started to. We've got an excellent estate at Dora Creek at the moment that I'd highly recommend people to have a look at. Dora Creek's traditionally a lower lying area. This isn't, and they're all benched, which means that they've got a flat area that you can build on and stuff. And I think it's a really good starting point.
Yeah, I think I moved there just for Steve's Smoking Seafood shop, mate. It's probably the best in town, really.
There you go. We love that.
Yeah. And so let's talk about some real estate myths in the real estate world. So what's one of the biggest myths do you believe?
I think the interest rate's going up. And prices will come down. I think, so many people have actually said, oh, well, the interest rates are going up, so I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And I've watched those people miss property after property. We recently had a guy that was working on a property for around 8-9 weeks. He was working on it, saying he was going to buy it, and he'd made offers. He was getting really close to the mark. And on the day that he agreed to the price, another person was there that also made an offer, and the offer was $250,000 over what he actually had offered.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting the property. And the other person ended up getting the property, and he missed out. He's still shopping for a property. Yep. Now we're 3 months later. I look and I go, what a miss. He had that totally in his control, just didn't execute, left it out there and was beaten the punch.
That's very hard. I mean, during COVID, everyone was predicting that house price was going to go down 20 to 30%. In hindsight, looking back on that, you go, well, how were they ever going to go down? You weren't allowed to leave the country. You couldn't order a new car. You couldn't go on holidays. You couldn't go to the hairdressers to get your hair done. So it all led to, one thing, people are going to get stuck in their houses and they're going to move. And when they're in their houses for so long, working from home, of course, the first thing you're going to do is, why don't we move? It's a great time to move. Got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So house prices, I believe, were always going to go up, although everyone recommended that they were going to go down, which is
interesting. It's an interesting one because I remember the very first week that actually happened, I didn't think it had a chance of going up. I thought it was going to crash because at that stage we weren't classified as essential services.
Yeah.
And if we weren't, you wouldn't have been able to go and see a property, so it all would have been done over the internet and luck. So I think that one decision of making us essential services did it so much for the real estate industry. It was, and we're still entirely grateful for it because it was something that was a real big positive for us.
Yeah, excellent. And I know you touched on the Dora Creek estate there coming up. What about some of the areas, or maybe some hidden gems, some popular areas? I mean, everyone always goes, well, where should I buy? I want to make a good investment, or I want to, make sure my money's safe. I mean, it takes a long time to save a deposit, a lot of heartache, and it can be lost if you don't make the right decision. So where would you say, or where would you recommend that some of the areas might be popular?
I think you first got to think about what your investment is. So whether it's or you're looking for a flip or 1 to 2 year sort of situation, which a lot of people seem to want.
Yep. I
think of real estate as a long-term thing. I think you should be buying and holding and prepreferably never selling it. Even though I'm a real estate agent, I think if you hang on to it and don't ever sell it, you're better off.
Definitely.
But a lot of people, have got to look at their strategy and what their accountant actually tells them and things like that. Yep. Me personally, I would go back to older properties. I would look at your bigger blocks because I think what's happening is as they're chopping smaller and smaller blocks, the desire for the bigger blocks is going to be intense in years to come.
Yep.
And the bigger the block you've got, the better investment. So I would be looking older areas. Look, I've always been pro-Gorick, and everyone knows that, and you are too. I know that.
Definitely, yeah.
So, I think that's just an absolutely gold area. You're close to the beach, you're close to the lake, you're close to the shopping centres, you're close to the freeway, but you're not sitting on top of, the things that, it's a great spot. You've got to go through to get anywhere.
Yeah.
God's country, really. But,
definitely.
so there's one of them. Look, acreage, you cannot go wrong. They're only going to cut so many of them. So acreage, I think, is something that I reckon is going to be a real sought after.
Yeah.
We've seen that through COVID. We've seen it probably come off the boil a little bit harder to sell, a little bit longer on the market.
Yeah.
But me, I don't understand why. Like if you were looking to buy it then, it's the same lifestyle that you'll get now, and it's potentially a little bit cheaper. So I'd be all over that. I think you can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
Anything that's in town. So if you've got an older area that's got in town, so around the shops and things like that, you'll buy good properties, and they'll always have good value because people want to live close to the shops.
Yeah.
And medicals and other things. So around the hospitals, so anything like that, around the trains. You can follow the trucks, and then you can get some good areas. So that'd be good too.
Yeah, excellent. And the last question I got for you is the millennial effect. How are preferences and buying habits of millennials shaping the current real estate market? I mean, there's a lot of younger people who want to get into the market.
Well, you're younger than me. Why don't you explain?
Well, I think, they're very lucky these days. Like, you've got YouTube, you've got all these reels on Instagram, socials and stuff like that. I mean, education is just at your fingertips. Probably when you were a young boy growing up, mate, you had to listen to your father, or you had to pick up a book. And I think what we're seeing now is that a lot more younger people wanting to get in the market. We've had a couple of our younger agents in our office purchase properties within their first or second year of being in real estate, which is great. It means that, they've gone through that journey.
Yep.
I think, it all starts from hard work, and I think you've touched on that, how it's changed from COVID, but it's also getting into saving patterns, and I call it getting loan fit. So when you want to go for a loan, you have to get loan fit. So what you do today will probably affect your decision making in 2 years' time. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Even if you're not a business owner or you've got your own company, you're just an employee, the new car, the personal loan, the holiday is all going to affect your decision making in 2 years' time. And I think if you can just probably have that in the back of your mind of what you're going to be doing today is going to affect that, that's going to give you a bit of an edge to everyone else. But getting loan fit, I think, like all the necessaries of the latest new iPhones, iPads, all your subscriptions on, Netflix and all that, they're all probably luxuries that probably don't need to be in someone in a millennial that's looking to get into the market.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, help with brokers, which they can give you some information about how to go about it with parents getting involved as well. So can you touch on that for me?
Well, the parents can be security. I think that's probably the big thing. So, but while you're on the loan fit thing, if I take back a step, just be mindful that subscriptions are big killers because it actually changes how much you earn. Like, they deduct those
Credit
off.
cards is another one. Yeah,
taking money out in an ATM at a club.
Yep.
They look for why that's actually taking place, and if it's a habit, and if that's a habit, it's going to be costing you dearly.
Yep.
Things like betting, so sports bets and tab and all the other stuff that's there. It's one that you've got to be careful of. So, that's the first part. Even car loans, zip loans, Afterpay, they're all things that will and can affect you. So just be mindful of that. So the security of your parents can go guarantor for you for a property, and they'll use some of the equity out of their property to guarantee that you'll actually pay yours.
Yep.
And I think that's a great way for people to start. I've seen also too gifts that a lot of parents are actually gifting money to their kids in the form of, here's some of your future coming out early.
Yep.
I wouldn't say there's a lot of that because, parents are starting to feel the pinch of their property prices maybe coming back a little bit, and so haven't got the luxury of being able to do that at the moment. But I think I think that will happen. That'll change as this next year or two come in.
Yep.
And then you'll start to see that happen a fair bit. And we've also seen people going into properties in multiples as well, where they do an agreement between them, but maybe buy a property between 2 or 3 or 4 people.
Yep.
Might be a boyfriend, girlfriend, or it could even be 2 mates and their 2 girlfriends, but they do a specific agreement that says, well, here's the buyout, here's the buy-in, this is what's going to happen over time and things like that, which I think that's quite clever as well, if it's done right.
Yeah.
Also, too, where the parents go and buy 50% of the property, and the kids buy the other 50%, and then they look to the future and go, okay, well, can I buy the other 50% off you at the stage? So that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah, excellent. So what's one of the biggest tips for 2024 then? We'll wrap it up on that one.
Well, I'll be good to your mother. I think it's the first one. But,
yeah.
I think the biggest tip is that if you're in a position to buy real estate, then buy it.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're a landlord, managing your own property is almost suicidal at the moment.
Well, I had a client recently actually managing his own, was owed $15,000. Took him about 2 months to get him out of the property, and he just took possession last week and had to spend a week cleaning it up, still spending money on it. So that's a prime example.
That's crazy. We're seeing it over and over, and we're seeing the tribunal making decisions now that they've never made before, silly decisions, but they've got the right to actually do it. So I'm not bagging them. What I'm saying is the decision doesn't make common sense about what they're actually arguing for. But there's a cost associated to landlords, and look, we are seeing people out there that are coming to us and saying, hey, look, we're $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 in arrears, and they want us to take it over and pay us a management fee that the others are paying, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
because if you've got yourself into that position, unfortunately, you need an expert to get you out, and that's not going to be cheap. So I would rather prevent that problem and come to us early. Let us manage it right, and we'll make sure that your investment earns your
Well, that's right. It is an investment, and I think a lot of people fall in the trap of maybe renting out to friends of friends or people they might know, or somebody knocks on the door and they fall into that trap of we felt sorry for them, or they just need a place to stay. But at the end of the day, it is a business transaction, and if you're not getting that rent from it, it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the likelihood of getting it out of them later on is going to be very hard and requires legal action, which means more money. So most people just end up wiping their debt and starting from scratch. So it does put you behind. So take that emotional connection out of it, hire an independent person, can do the background checks, the references, and then they can obviously move on with hopefully a safe investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your tip for 2024?
I would say that it's going to be an interesting 2024. I think there's probably a few people out there that are hurting, and I do believe there'll be more people coming on in Christmas. But I'd say that, probably 12, 18 months ago, there was a lot of people out there who were probably spending money like it was probably, I suppose, nothing. And I think those people have probably pulled it in a little bit. I think towards the end of the year, I think we'll see some relief. They're predicting that interest rates might get cut. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think there'll be a bit more hope in 2025. So I would be suggesting just to plan ahead, think about where your money is going, have a chat, with your broker or your accountant about where your weekly budget is, have a chat to your partner, and just decide, where you want to take your finances to.
Yep.
Have kind of a 3 to 5 year plan. Write your goals down for 2024. It might not be property goals this year, but maybe talk to a broker, ask what you need to do to actually get you to a financial position. If you're wanting to enter the market, if you're wanting to buy an investment, if you're wanting to use equity, if you want mum and dad to back you for a property. But I think most of all, just do your own research, your own education, and send your fingertips now, and you type into YouTube, you can pretty much find out anything you like.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's your goals for 2024?
2024 is going to be helping my clients. I think they need that more than ever, to be honest. Building a house and, just helping clients try and achieve their real estate goals.
Well done. Good luck for 2024.
Excellent. You too, Darin. You take care.
Darin Butcher, signing out.